One of the biggest conversations all week has been how is Alabama's offense going to face off against Georgia's defense. That's the matchup that most people are excited for heading into the SEC championship between the two juggernauts of the SEC, Alabama and Georgia. How is Georgia's defense going to face up against Alabama's offense? Not the conversation I want to have. I want to flip the script. Georgia's offense versus Alabama's defense. That's the conversation that isn't being stretched out as much. You know, how is Stetson Bennett and company going to move the ball against Alabama? How are they going to score against Alabama? Does Alabama have the guys to stop Georgia's offense? Because as we've discovered, there's a ton of stars on Georgia's offense too. Their defense isn't the only reason why they're in the position that they're in. Ryan Curley from Dog Post here, bringing you all the commentary on this topic. And for extra coverage, you should be going to dawgpost.com, D-A-W-G, post.com. Subscribe. There's $2 for 2-month deal right now, subscription that Dean has put out there that he does not do very often, and he will tell you that himself. So make sure you're going to the site, dawgpost.com. Anyway, so Stetson Bennett and company. Does Alabama have the guys to defend some of these weapons Georgia have? I'm definitely suspicious that they will. I mean, let's look down the line. Georgia can have several combinations of star talent out there at the same time on offense. It's quite ridiculous, actually. And the way that they were rotating players against Georgia Tech should be concerning for other teams because they all produce. You have guys like Ladd McConkey coming in every couple plays and producing. Jermaine Burton. None of these guys are playing every down. Brock Bowers, obviously. So what do you do if you're Alabama and a combination of James Cook, Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, George Pickens are all out there on the field at the same time? I think that's really it's not impossible, but damn near close for them to defend that. I mean, James Cook is a huge weapon. He is an explosive player. He's a touchdown waiting to happen. And we saw him succeed against Alabama last year. We saw him explode against Tennessee. He's someone I think Georgia might get really involved. You know, Alabama's never been a team that Georgia has had a lot of success running against. I think they'll have a little bit more success this year. And obviously they have the talent to do it. Zamir White is so steady. James Cook on the outside. Maybe Kendall Milton in action. We know Kenny McIntosh is a do-it-all guy. You see the theme here. I'm just naming a bunch of weapons because these are all the guys capable of scoring for Georgia. I haven't even mentioned. There's just so many that I'm forgetting. But, you know, Kearis Jackson is the main one that I haven't mentioned. Dominic Blaylock has gotten back into the mix. I mean, Blaylock and Pickens are kind of a question mark because we don't know how they are as far as contact goes and everything, but they have gotten in the games and they've been targeted. So, and George Pickens even got a catch against Georgia Tech. And at the very least, if George Pickens is out on the field, he is going to be somewhat of a decoy. If he's not out there to get the ball thrown to him, which I don't know what the game plan is, if he's not quite 100%, and that's the reason why he's not playing that much, maybe he's out there as a decoy. George Pickens is not someone that you can just not give that much attention to. I mean, he's the best receiver on the team. He is an NFL guy. And Brock Bowers is shot up that list too. But, you know, imagine if George Pickens and Brock Bowers are out there at the same time. You can't double cover both of them because then someone's going to be wide open. And that's going to be a problem for Alabama. And this is something that Georgia might run into a little bit too because Alabama has two really good receivers in Jamison Williams and John Mechie, and they might have an issue with that. I think Georgia is actually, even though Alabama puts up more yards and points on offense, not by as much as you think, than Georgia does, I don't think that they're that much more explosive than Georgia. I think there's just been so much attention on the defense that we didn't realize that Georgia's putting up over 40 a game, and you got dudes like Brock Bowers running past people, running by them after he gets the ball. You got James Cook out there gliding through space. You get Ladd McConkey wearing the slot. You got Brock Bowers rushing for a touchdown. You get Zamir White, who's just been steady. You got 5 yards, 8 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards. I mean, Georgia's steady on offense. They definitely have the talent. And there's stars on Alabama's defense. You got Will Anderson, a really great pass rusher, but something that not every team that Alabama's faced, they don't have Stetson Bennett, who moves around really well. And yes, Alabama's played Matt Corral, they played KJ Jefferson, so they've played some guys that can move around. But that's another element they have to worry about. Guys like Henry To'oTo'o and other linebackers might have to spy a little bit, because Stetson Bennett can beat you with his legs too on a play action pass. And we've seen it. I think his probably best running game was against Auburn. I mean, Stetson Bennett is a lot faster than you might think, and you just have to watch him play. And he's shifty, and he will put his body on the line for the Georgia Bulldogs. Stetson Bennett is the definition of bleeding red and black. So and he may be a somewhat scrawny sub 6 foot player, but he is an athlete, and he is playing at a high level for what has been the best team in college football this year, and they're going to have to account for him running around, just as they're going to have to account for all these weapons. I have a hard time seeing Alabama be able to guard all these weapons. Someone is going to have a big game, and I'm going to predict that it's probably going to be James Cook, Brock Bowers, and I think Jermaine Burton could come in and have a really good game. We'll see. We'll see you on the site too, dogpost.com, for all your coverage this week.